our special series of videos looking at George Washington Wilson, his career, his importance, and the collections that we have here in the University of Aberdeen. So just to remind you why we're doing these, obviously because George Washington Wilson is important, but more than that because Roger Taylor, Professor Roger Taylor, the eminent historian of George Washington Wilson in that period of photography, is just about to bring out his new book looking at Wilson's life and career. So he'll launch that book at the Edinburgh Literary Festival on Wednesday the 15th of August, and then he's going to come up to Aberdeen on Thursday the 16th of August and launch the book up here in Aberdeen. And that was a joint idea between himself and Brian May, the former lead guitarist of Queen, who owns the London Stereoscopic Company, which has published the book. Brian May's a fantastic fan of George Washington Wilson and the late 19th century 3D or stereoscopic imagery. So the two of them really wanted to come up to Aberdeen. They felt it was the most appropriate place to you know, bring the book for its launch. Roger Taylor's very happy with this, and you know, we're absolutely agree with them there. So they're going to launch the book on Thursday 16th of August in the Arts Lecture Theatre here at the University of Aberdeen, and you'll be able to buy tickets for that. Search on Eventbrite for George Washington Wilson. But you join us today at this sculpture here in front of the Sir Duncan Rice Library, and this sculpture is called easy for me to say, Evolutionary Loop. Now, it's a sculpture which a piece of performance art had taken place at previously, and that was a piece of performance art commissioned by my colleague Dr Amy Bryzgel, who is a senior lecturer in film and visual culture here at the university and director of the George Washington Wilson Centre, which really seeks to carry on his life and legacy and bring his works and his techniques and innovations to a newer audience. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the ways that we try to continue George Washington Wilson's legacy is not just by showcasing his work, but also by bringing it in line with new technologies. So I have colleagues working on an app, for example. It's called Mapping App, and you can revisit the places that George Washington Wilson photographed in Aberdeen, but you can also upload your own photographs, and there are soundscapes, so it's very interactive. And it's interesting because you can see not only how the city has changed since the 19th century, but the parts that have remained the same, because there is a lot of continuity.
Yeah, that's a really fair point, Amy. I mean, a lot of Aberdeen remains imperial, Victorian looking as George saw it, you know. So yeah, I mean, you're sort of touching on that, and also the fact that, you know, George was an innovator in technology, and that's what the app is as well. So it's carried on in the traditions that he set out. It's fantastic work.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And I mean, we in addition to providing a showcase for local artists, because the George Washington Wilson Centre being named after George Washington Wilson, I think provides a really nice link with the cultural community in Aberdeen. So it's not just about a Centre for Visual Culture that's you know, that exists in a vacuum, but it's really connected with the culture scene in Aberdeen. So we provide a showcase for local artists, but we also bring in artists from other places to interact with the local artistic community. And one of the commissions that you mentioned was with a Croatian artist, and he was actually tied to this evolutionary loop sculpture. It was quite a feat to get through all the health and safety regulations, but we did it, and he performed this piece, I think it was about 2 years ago now. So again, it's not just about one work of art existing in and of itself, it's about the interaction. So this is a work of art that another artist reinvented and rethought through with his performance.
I mean, I think George Washington Wilson himself would probably be very happy with this, the way the legacy's been reinterpreted. It isn't something that's static, that it works within the wider context. He worked within the wider context. Aberdeen and Scotland were becoming new tourist destinations. He was at the forefront of that, not only with the technology of the photography, but working with Balmoral and so on. So yeah, I mean, he was all about context and dynamic and about outward looking. So yeah,
I mean, that's how I see the George Washington Wilson Centre, and my colleagues as well, that it's both inward facing and outward facing. It's not just about, oh, the art that's happening elsewhere. Aberdeen sometimes gets lost in the shuffle between the Central Belt and London and those big artistic centers, but the truth is there's so much exciting art and culture happening in Aberdeen, and George Washington Wilson is proof that it's been happening for a long time.
No, you know, absolutely, and even take it back further to Scotland's first great portrait painter, you know, coming from Aberdeen. There's a whole separate broadcast
that's a whole separate podcast.
So let's not get lost too much in that. But you know, so thanks very much for listening to us today. So hopefully you'll get a chance to come along on Thursday the 16th of August, and you'll be able to meet Brian May and Roger Taylor, and you'll hear firsthand, and they'll do a 3D show of George Washington Wilson's images. I'll certainly be there.
I'll be there, absolutely. The George Washington Wilson Centre will be well represented.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
Amy.
thank you, Chris.
Bye-bye.